Luna here. Today we will find out, can you beat Elder Scrolls Oblivion if you level normally? That's bound to seem odd to anyone who hasn't played Oblivion before. Don't worry, I'll explain. In fact, this is what I'm going to point to whenever I'm creating a character in future Oblivion challenges. You see, the leveling system in Oblivion and how leveling affects the game world is counterintuitive, to say the least. I'm focusing on these problems with the leveling system: major skills versus minor skills, governing attributes, increasing attributes on level up, and level scaling. There are other issues, but if I cover them all, we'll really get bogged down. For anyone who already knows about the leveling problem, the time code will skip to the start of the run. Oblivion has 21 skills. Every class has 7 major skills, and the remaining 14 skills are minor skills. Major skills start at a higher skill level and contribute to leveling up. Minor skills do not contribute to leveling up, but they do contribute to the attribute increases available upon leveling. There are 8 attributes, and when your character levels up, you pick 3 attributes to increase. The amount an attribute can go up by ranges from 1 to 5, depending on how many skill increases were achieved in skills governed by that attribute. For +5 intelligence, you need 10 skill increases from conjuration, mysticism, or alchemy. For example, 3 increases in conjuration, 2 in mysticism, and 5 in alchemy. Even getting a decent +3 attribute increase requires 5 skill increases. Once you can level, the attribute increases for that level up are locked, and any further skill increases go toward the attribute increases for the next level up. So skill increases for attributes need to happen before you have the ability to level up. You don't want to get more than 10 skill increases for a single attribute before leveling, though, because further skill increases don't contribute to the current or future levels' attribute increases. And you can also only pick 3 attributes to raise during each level up, so getting +5s across the board on a level is wasteful too. The luck attribute is also an oddity because it governs no skills, so it can only ever be raised by 1. This means there are 2 efficient leveling attribute gains: 5-5-1 if you want to raise luck, and 5-5-5 if you don't. These require 20 or 30 skill increases respectively, 10 each in some combination of skills governed by the attributes you want to raise, before you have the option to level up, ideally without wasting skill increases along the way, in a game where skills go up with use. How many major skills does it take to level up then? Surely it's at least 15 if they want you to get so many skill increases for a decent level up with +3s. Nope. You only need 10 major skill increases before you can level. This means if you want to raise an attribute where all the skills it governs are major skills for your class, you'll need all 10 major skill increases to go to that attribute to get the +5 increase. This really hamstrings some pre-made classes. Melee-focused characters benefit most from endurance and strength, but because all the skills those attributes govern are major skills for the warrior class can never get a +5 to both of those attributes on the same level up. At best, they can get a +3 on each if they got exactly 5 skill increases in skills for each attribute. So what's the best way to deal with this leveling system? In my honest opinion, mod it or ignore it. There are plenty of leveling mods for Oblivion, but if modding isn't an option, then ignoring the leveling system by under-leveling is often your best bet. All that planning for attributes isn't just a crazy min-maxing strategy you can get by without during casual play. You need decent level ups with +3s or better to survive at higher levels. This is because of the last main problem I mentioned at the start. The entire game world in Oblivion scales with the player character's level to an insane degree. The first Oblivion gate might be a stroll through a handful of stunted scamps at level 1, but it turns into a tough battle with full-grown scamps, clanfear runts, and Dremora caitiffs by around level 7, and a twisted nightmare of Daedroths by level 15 or so. If you must level, here are some tips. Make a custom class with endurance as one of its favorite attributes, and try to pick major skills you won't use during normal gameplay. I'm going to let that sink in for a moment. To make this mess of a system sort of work, you should pick major skills you don't want. For example, if you plan to use no armor or light armor, make heavy armor a major skill. When you want to level, put on a metal suit and get hit for a while. As a bonus, it'll contribute to the attribute increase for endurance, and more health is good for literally everyone. Avoid picking athletics. It increases with movement, and it will go up when you least want it to. Also, know which attributes are important to your character. For a caster, intelligence and willpower are critical because they affect maximum magicka and magicka regeneration. Strength increases melee damage, agility increases the damage of bows, and personality should be everyone's dumped attribute. Everyone got all that? Did you take notes? Good, because we're about to toss those 2 pages of the script out the window and see what happens when you play Oblivion leveling normally. I have not done this since the first couple of characters I ever played. I was pretty young, but I still figured out it was better to avoid leveling. And more recently, I've always had a leveling mod installed. I don't know exactly what will happen, but I expect things to hit the fan around level 10 or so. The exact rules are a little loose for this one because everyone has a different definition of leveling normally and playing normally. But here's what I came up with. I must pick a pre-made class. This is to reduce how much I can, consciously or subconsciously, try to level more efficiently. I must level up as soon as I reasonably can. If I'm in the middle of an Oblivion gate or who knows what else, I can resolve things, but as soon as I can find a bed and level, I must do so. There may be times I don't notice I'm able to level if the message happens mid-combat. I'll check the stats screen often to minimize this. I must reach level 20 before entering Paradise. This is to prevent me from trying to rush through the main quest and win the run before the pain really has a chance to set in. I must primarily use my major skills during gameplay, particularly in combat. No glitches, exploits, cheats, or gameplay mods. Official DLC is fair game. While this isn't a rule per se, I plan on recreating my very first Oblivion character because I think it'll help reduce the temptation to try to min-max things. I can't remember her birth sign, but she was an Argonian who I think was a sorcerer, mage, or spell sword. Why an Argonian? Because they looked cool. I was a kid. I wasn't putting much thought into it. And that's exactly what this run calls for right now. My knowledge and questionable skills will be needed later in the run to hopefully unfudge the situation we're getting ourselves into. Since this is the first Oblivion run on the channel, I'll spend some time covering the main story events for anyone who hasn't played the game before. There's also going to be some early Mages Guild quests mixed in because I wanted access to spellcrafting and I didn't get the Mages Tower DLC working until halfway through the run.
I was born 87 years ago. For 65 years, I've ruled as Tamriel's emperor. But for all these years, I've never been the ruler of my own dreams. I have seen the gates of Oblivion, beyond which no waking eye may see. Behold, in darkness, a doom sweeps the land. This is the 27th of Last Seed, the year of Akatosh 433. These are the closing days of the Third Era and the final hours of my life.
After we somehow hear the internal monologue of the Emperor, we come to in our prison cell in the Imperial City. This is where we choose our character's race and gender, both of which affect our starting attributes. All of them have the same starting attribute total, but the point distributions are different. Each race also has bonuses to certain skills, and many have special resistances and powers. As much as I like Argonians, they're not great mechanically. Argonians get resistance to disease, immunity to poison, and water breathing. In Oblivion, diseases are easily curable. The poison immunity doesn't come up often and doesn't protect from things it should. For example, damage health side effects from potions still hurt Argonians. And you can get a ring that grants water breathing from an easy quest right outside the Imperial City. But they're what I went with for my first character, so here we are. A few moments later, the Emperor and his guards show up and pass through our cell. We're ordered to stand back, but before they can pass by, the Emperor notices us. Cryptic BS, go!
Let me see your face. You are the one from my dreams. Then the stars were right. And this is the day. Gods give me strength. Assassins attacked my sons, and I am next. My blades are leading me out of the city along a secret escape route. By chance, the entrance to that escape route leads through your cell.
Better not close this one. There's no way to open it from the other side.
Looks like this is
His guards open a secret passage leading out of our cell. They don't stop us from following along behind them, so I guess our prison sentence is over. The secret passage wasn't as secret as they thought, though. After the scuffle with assassins is over, the Emperor and his remaining guards pass through a locked door, leaving us to find a way around through this crumbling sub-basement. It's not that difficult, mostly rats and goblins. We pick up some equipment along the way, including a partial set of rusty iron armor, a rusty iron shield, a steel short sword, a bow, and a mortar and pestle for alchemy. Once we're through the maze of rat and goblin tunnels, we cross paths with the Emperor again. He insists we accompany them and asks us for our birth sign. In retrospect, I should have chosen the mage sign for the extra magicka, because without racial or birth sign bonuses, the most base magicka you can get is 200. But I forgot that magicka doesn't keep going up as we level, so I picked the lady sign for plus 10 endurance and willpower.
The signs I read show the end of my path. My death, a necessary end, will come when it will come. You shall follow me yet for a while. Then we must part.
With the important matter of knowing the star sign of the random prisoner tagging along settled, the Emperor continues on. After a few more assassin attacks, we come to a gate that's been barred from the other side, trapping us in a dead end. The Emperor's guards hear enemies behind us and run off to fight, leaving the Emperor's safety in the hands of the random prisoner. The Emperor hands us the Amulet of Kings, a powerful artifact that will be crucial to stopping the Oblivion invasion, and tells us to take it to Joffrey.
Take the amulet, give it to Joffrey. He alone knows where to find my last son. Find him and close shut the jaws of Oblivion.
He neglects to tell us who Joffrey is or where he is before an assassin comes in through a secret passage, slashes the air awkwardly, and finally kills the Emperor while we're apparently paralyzed. I have no idea why Boris doesn't take the amulet to Joffrey himself, but he at least tells us where to go. He also guesses our class based on what we've done so far. I've been using heavy armor and magic with a few opportunistic sneak attacks with a bow. Yet he picks the Pilgrim class, which has no magic skills, uses light armor and blunt weapons, and has a bunch of speech skills. How did the game come to this conclusion? It doesn't have stealth, marksmanship, or any magic. I haven't even picked up a blunt weapon. I'm wearing heavy armor. Why is personality a favorite attribute for any class? This is why I'm allowed to pick any pre-made class, because the game is clearly bonkers. I settled on the Sorcerer class. Every magic skill except Illusion is a major skill, along with heavy armor. They specialize in magic, meaning all magic skills will increase faster and get an additional starting bonus. And their favored attributes are Intelligence and Endurance, which are solid picks for a tanky mage. The only obvious issue is that Alchemy is a major skill, and I plan on making a lot of potions both for our own use and to sell. Which means we're going to level up fast, but that's what we're here for, isn't it? Some minor skills will go up as I move, jump, trade, and repair my armor, but the only extra combat skill I plan to use is Block. The class art has a heavy shield. It counts. Otherwise, we'll be sticking to our major skills, and we won't grind minor skills for extra attributes. Do we immediately run off to Wayne Priory once we're out of the sewers? Nope. I didn't do that when I first played, and I'm not doing it now either. We're carrying a lot of stuff, so we head up into the Imperial City Market District. We sell some items and use the gold to buy cheap alchemy ingredients from every food and alchemical vendor in the district. Once we make some potions, we keep the useful restore health and magicka ones and sell the others at a profit. We level up before we're even done with the first batch of potions, so we have to go find a bed to sleep in so we can level. We can sleep in the Arena Bloodworks for free without even signing up as a combatant, so we take a nap there and ascend to level 2. The only +5 increase we got was for agility because I was using bows against the rats and goblins earlier. I don't plan on using bows from here on out because it's not a major skill, so we're stuck with +3 intelligence and +2 endurance and willpower. Not the worst level, but not great. With the money we've earned so far, we head out to buy some starting spells. I'll let the spell vendor introduce himself here.
Edgar Vautrin, you don't want the very best, you want cheap, and I got cheap.
I hope these spells actually work. We start with quite a few spells, thanks to having so many magic skills as major skills, but there are still some gaps to fill in. I purchased Burning Touch because touch spells cost less magicka than ranged spells with the same damage. Ease Burden because I'm a lootaholic and it'll let me carry more. Snowball because if we need to use ranged spells for any reason, having another damage type could be useful. Starlight so that we can cast a simple light spell in dark areas. And Summon Scamp because the Scamp can be a surprisingly useful distraction even in the late game. We still had gold left, so I bought some new armor from the Best Defense. We still have no gauntlets. I can't seem to find heavy gauntlets anywhere. While we're equipping everything, you may notice our shield doesn't appear until I equip a weapon. Yeah, for some reason in Oblivion, you can't use a shield without a weapon, so we have to carry around a sword we'll almost never use. With our shopping done, we head for Wayne Priory to speak with Joffrey. Somehow, our crazy story convinces him to trust us.
As unlikely as your story sounds, I believe you. Only the strange destiny of Uriel Septim could have brought you to me carrying the Amulet of Kings.
When we ask about the threat from Oblivion, the Emperor mentioned, Joffrey offers this.
The Emperor seemed to perceive some threat from the demonic world of Oblivion, but the mortal world is protected from the Daedra of Oblivion by magical barriers. When an Emperor is crowned, He uses the amulet to light the dragon fires at the Temple of the One in the Imperial City. It may be that the dragon fires protected us from a threat that only the Emperor was aware of.
And when we ask about the remaining heir, Joffrey tells us a bit about him.
His name is Martin. He serves Akatosh in the chapel in the city of Kvatch, south of here. You must go to Kvatch and find him at once. If the enemy is aware of his existence, as seems likely, he is in terrible danger.
I'm also doing a lot of alchemy to get gold for spells, and we hit 50 in the skill before we left Coral. It was enough to level us again too, so we took a nap at the Mage's Guild Hall and ascended to level 3. It's a slightly better level with +4 intelligence, but willpower and endurance still only got +2. We stop by the Mage's Guild in Skingrad on our way to Kvatch to do their quest. We also buy Heal Major Wounds, a more powerful but costly healing spell, and weakness to fire, frost, and shock spells, so we can add those effects to custom spells later. We also leveled again to level 4. This time we got 4 intelligence and 2 willpower and speed, because endurance didn't get any skill increases at all. Shortly afterward, we leveled again to level 5 for 3 intelligence and 2 willpower and endurance. I'll be really happy when we master alchemy and it can't level us anymore. With our business in Skingrad complete, we head right past Kvatch and visit Anvil to do the Mage's Guild quest there. The quest is simple enough. We meet up with 2 battle mages at an inn outside Anvil, head towards Kvatch until we run into a rogue mage, and take out the rogue mage. But in Oblivion, even simple things often don't go as planned. First, we don't find the rogue mage until I happen to turn around and find out she's been chasing us for who knows how long. And then a Legion guard patrolling nearby joins the fight. You'd think that'd just be a bit of extra help, but the 2 battle mages must have hit the guard during the melee madness around the rogue mage, because once the rogue mage was dead, the guard attacked the battle mages and killed both of them. I'm glad he didn't attack us. So we walked away from that disaster as the sole witness to the slaughter with one of the battle mage's steel armor. With all that done, we finally head towards Kvatch. I'm sure nothing has happened there while we were faffing around with the Mage's Guild quests. Someone is running along the road.
Come on, run while there's still time. The guard still holds the road, but it's only a matter of time before they're overwhelmed. God's blood. You don't know, do you? Deidre overran Kvatch last night. There were glowing portals outside the walls, gates to Oblivion itself. There was a huge creature, something out of a nightmare, came right over the walls, blasting fire that swarmed around it, killing.
Okay, so things are bad, but not as dire as that guy made it out to be. There's a survivor encampment along the road leading to Kvatch, and they direct us to Savlian Matthias, the captain of the remaining guards, holding a barricade further up the road. At the barricade, we find a few guards fighting a wave of stunted scamps and clanfear runs. We help clear them out, and the guard captain approaches us.
We lost the damn city. That's what happened! It was too much. Too fast. We were overwhelmed. Couldn't even get everyone out. There are still people trapped in there.
Martin isn't in the encampment, so if he's still alive, he's in the city. And to get to him, we need to close that Oblivion gate. No one else is volunteering, so we go in to try to close the gate. We're mostly fighting stunted scamps, but there's the occasional clanfear run too. We can handle them one at a time, most of the time, but if there are multiple, or we get backed into a corner while they spam their forward lunging attack, things can get nasty. We need to get to the top of the largest tower and grab the sigil stone. We will be conveniently warped out as the gate closes. We immediately run into 2 clanfear runs and a Dremora as we enter the tower, so we run back out so we have more room. The clanfears don't follow us, and despite that, the Dremora nearly took us out. About halfway up the tower, we have to cross to a smaller tower so we can fight another Dremora for a key we need to proceed further up the main tower. This Dremora is probably the closest thing Oblivion has to a first boss, so I'll show him during runs. Ignore the guy in the cage screaming his head off. He's there purely to tell us we need to remove the sigil stone at the top of the large tower, because Bethesda did not trust us to figure that one out. In fact, there was even a surviving guard right when we entered the gate that tells us to go to the big tower, the one feature on an island surrounded by lava, because Bethesda didn't even trust us to figure that one out. Also, this conversation camera is just beautiful sometimes. I even tried to get a different angle and it just did it again. We soon make it to the top room of the tower where the sigil stone is. Before anyone asks, I'm well aware that we could easily run past the enemies and grab the sigil stone to close the gate and warp out. In fact, we could have run past everything except the Dremora in the side tower with the key we needed. I've done it before and I'm sure I'll do it again, but if we can fight, we will. I think it's more fun that way. We fight another Dremora churl and a tougher Dremora caitiff, but they don't do enough damage to really pose a serious threat. Oddly, the Dremora at the bottom of the tower earlier was much more dangerous. I think he happened to have an enchanted weapon, and that was why he nearly took us out. With them gone, we're free to take the sigil stone and close the gate. Flashing lights warning here until I say we're back outside near Kvatch. And we're back outside of Kvatch where the Oblivion Gate used to be. With the guards at our side, we charge into the plaza just inside the city gate. We face a few Clanfear runs, some stunted scamps, and some stronger, fully grown scamps. And one Dremora churl. Nothing too crazy. But more than what would have been here at level 1.
We're all that's left.
With the plaza clear, we can head inside the chapel. This is actually all we need to do to get to Martin. We can talk to him now and leave Savlian to figure out how to clear the city on his own, or more accurately, stand around waiting on our help forever. But just this once, I'm going to do all of the extra quests to get allies for a battle in Bruma later in the main quest. Mostly just to prove that the extra allies it gives us aren't worth it out of spite. So we're going to let Martin head down to the survivor encampment for now, while we help the guards retake Kvatch. First, though, we need to take a nap and level up. Probably multiple times. Wait, what happened to level 6? I swear I dug through the footage and level 6 was nowhere to be found. Maybe I forgot to record it. Apologies. Anyway, level 7 gives us 4 intelligence, 2 speed, and 3 endurance. For once, not a terrible level. Not an amazing level, but not terrible. Level 8 is an oddball. We got this level entirely in the Oblivion Gate, where we were fighting non-stop instead of stopping to do alchemy every 5 minutes. So we have no boost to intelligence. Instead, we get 4 willpower because we had a lot of destruction and restoration skill increases. 2 speed and 3 endurance. The consistent speed increases are coming from athletics and acrobatics skill increases from running and jumping, and endurance is coming from heavy armor, block, and occasionally armorer when I'm repairing our gear. With our nap over, we tell Savlian we're ready to go, and we head out into the plaza in front of the castle gate. We clear it, but there are Dremora caitiffs and more full-grown scamps out here than in the previous plaza.
The gates are locked, and the only way to open them is from within the gatehouse. Hurry and find Barrage Ini. We should be back in the chapel. We should still have the key to the guardhouse. Once you've got it, get to the guardhouse, find the passage, and open that gate. Then we can get inside the castle and secure it. We saw the smoke.
I admit I'm a little bit scared of them after what the other Legionnaires did to the battle mages earlier, but I tell them to follow along and help. After that, we find Beric Inian, the guy with the key we need. We follow him down into the chapel under Croft and run through another part of the ruined city where we fight more scamps and challengerun's. The Imperial Legionnaires don't fare too well, and Beric gets taken out after he runs ahead and alerts about half a dozen enemies at once, leaving me in this situation. Brilliant. We use the sword we carry around for the first and last time because one of the health restoring potions we drank had a damage magicka side effect I thought we'd be immune to, but apparently poisonous side effects are ignored by Argonian poison immunity. Thanks, Bethesda! By the time we get into the gatehouse, we're the only one left. We raise the gate to let Savlian and the other guards with him in, but they don't last long. Over the course of the 3 levels we've gotten since arriving in Kvatch, the guards have gone from being able to carry the battle to useless. Even Savlian spends most of the battle unconscious. There are a ton of scamps, clangerun's, and even a couple of flame atronachs in the castle courtyard, and I have to dip into the potions to get through the fight. Savlian charges into the castle, and we follow after healing up. Inside, we fight more of the same, a lot of flame atronachs, and Savlian once again spends most of the battle knocked out cold. He must have taken too many blows to the head, because once the fight is over, his next orders are...
We'll hold this area. You head to the back of the castle and find the Count. Don't come back here without him.
Well, okay then. I guess he doesn't realize he's the last guard left. We head further into the castle by ourselves. We fight more scamps, mostly. I even find time to do some alchemy in the middle of a burning castle. I may have an alchemy problem. We leveled again during the last few battles, and there's an intact bed to sleep in. Which is on fire. Beggars can't be choosers, right? We ascend to level 9 and get 2 intelligence, 3 willpower, and 4 endurance. We've been taking a lot of hits. We immediately take another short nap and ascend to level 10 in the sweet embrace of smoke inhalation. We get 2 intelligence, 3 willpower, and 4 endurance again. Now at level 10, we enter the last room of the castle, the Count's quarters. I'm just gonna leave this in uncut. Yep, I saw that Daedroth in that tiny room and immediately noped out. I took a minute to assess our options, which definitely didn't involve crying, and settled on using our most powerful shield, mage armor, spell, defend. Drank a shield potion, they stack, and summoned a scamp to provide a distraction. Time to take out a Daedroth with Shocking Touch, the novice level shock spell. It takes several potions and a lot of screaming, but we eventually manage to take the Daedroth down. The Count, unsurprisingly, is no more. So we take his signet ring back to Savlian. He takes the news well enough. We give him the signet. Savlian gives us his cuirass as a reward. It's a nice gesture and all, but it's light armor. Not only does it provide less armor than our steel cuirass, it also lowers our spell efficiency more because we're more skilled in wearing heavy armor. So it's going to be sold at the first opportunity.
Yes.
We head down to the survivors' encampment and find Martin. Once again, our protagonist power to make important people believe our crazy stories comes in handy as this priest, who appears to be going through a crisis of faith no less, believes us when we tell him he's the late emperor's last remaining heir. Fun fact, Martin is a fairly powerful spellcaster, and at lower levels he can be very helpful in combat. At higher levels he's less useful due to his lack of armor, but for now he's essential, meaning he cannot die, so we don't have to worry about protecting him. On the way to Wayne Priory, we stopped by the Imperial City Market District to trade some of the loot we found in Kvatch. I used the gold to buy the Tower of the Nine shield. It's one of the best shields you can get at lower levels, available at any level at Stonewall Shields. When we arrive at Wayne Priory, all is not well. Assassins are attacking, but they're sporting enough to give the smith time to fill us in.
I don't know. In the chapel, praying, I think. You must help us!
There are more assassins in the chapel attacking Joffrey, but we fend them off.
The Amulet of Kings. I fear that was the target of this attack. I kept it in a secret room in Waynham House. We need to go see if it is safe. We'll go together.
Truly, only the Grand Master of the Blades could have deduced that. We follow Joffrey inside the priory to find the amulet. So where were you hiding it, Joffrey? Somewhere with enchantments or something, right? A closet? You put the amulet in a locked closet? Of course the assassins have escaped with the amulet, so now we have the heir but no amulet. This means we can't light the dragon fires, and the Oblivion invasion is still on. Is there some in-joke at Bethesda that the Blades, who are supposedly like a cross between the Secret Service and CIA, are completely incompetent? Or is it just bad writing? Put your opinion on that in the comments, along with more examples of the Blades being complete idiots. There's nothing we can do to get the amulet back, so our focus shifts to keeping Martin safe from the assassins at Cloud Ruler Temple. The hike to Cloud Ruler Temple shows how the wilderness is changing as we level. Instead of encountering wolves, we're encountering tougher enemies like black bears. One of the most jarring things about Oblivion's level scaling is that the tougher enemies don't appear in addition to weaker enemies. They mostly replace weaker enemies over time. We're still running into the occasional timber wolf, a stronger wolf variant, but eventually the wilderness will be overrun with bears, mountain lions, trolls, and ogres. We arrive at Cloud Ruler Temple to find it locked. Looking around, Joffrey isn't with us. He was with us when we left, and was following behind Martin. I don't know when he got lost. We wait for a bit and then try fast traveling, which is often useful for forcing lost NPCs to appear. Joffrey's chestnut horse appears, but not Joffrey. Joffrey is essential right now, so he's not dead. I haven't gotten any notifications that he's been knocked unconscious either. We wait around more, and after several in-game hours, Joffrey finally appears, remounts his horse to ride for all of 5 feet, and then dismounts to open the gate to Cloud Ruler Temple. Yeah, no rush, Joffrey. Martin and I have only been waiting on a freezing mountain for half a day. Once we're in, this perfect in-game cutscene plays.
Hail,
Dragon Ball!
Hail, Martin
Martin
Scepter!
Hail!
Your Highness, the Blades are at your command. You will be safe here until you can take up your throne.
Joffrey, all of you, I know you all expect me to be Emperor. I'll do my best. But this is...
It always struck me as odd that Martin seems so unused to public speaking. I get being the heir to the throne is new, but he's a priest. Surely he's given sermons before. I mean, I'd probably be even more awkward in his situation, but I'm an introverted YouTuber. I talk in front of a mic, not a live audience.
Of course, the Amulet of Kings. So I, can take it to the Temple of the One and light the dragon fires, and stop the Oblivion invasion. In any case, we need the amulet first. Maybe Joffrey will know where to start.
You have proven yourself a loyal servant of the Empire, as worthy as any of the Blades to stand by Martin's side during this crisis. As the Grand Master of the Blades, I would be honored to accept you into our order. Will you join us?
No, Joffrey, we will not be joining the Blades. So far, we have watched you guys lose the Emperor and most of his heirs, and you personally lost the Amulet of Kings because you thought chucking it in your closet was good enough to hide it from an organization connected to a Daedric prince, an entity with godlike powers. I feel nervous about leaving Martin here, but we'll be doing a lot of dangerous work to recover the amulet because, of course, that's being left to us. So we have no choice but to hope like hell it works out. Joffrey wants us to check in with Boris, the surviving member of Emperor Uriel's escort, to see if he's learned anything about the assassins. He's in the Imperial City, but first we're going to detour to the nearby city of Bruma so we can do the Mages Guild quest there. I'm going to briefly cover the quest because it required us to grind mysticism up a bit, which leveled us and thus affected the run. It turns out that Volinaro and Jaskar are actually turning Jaskar invisible to confound Jean, because it demonstrates that she can't even cast a simple detect life spell to realize what they're doing. While I certainly don't like Jean, I also don't want to help Volinaro to solve the quest because he annoys me. Yes, I'm that petty sometimes. Ironically, Volinaro sells the greater Dispel Other spell you need to remove the invisibility on Jaskar, but it requires 50 mysticism to cast, and we only have 35. I think grinding a skill to solve a quest counts as normal, and this will level us up and make the game harder anyway, so I spend some time running around the guild hall casting a novice detect life spell over and over to raise mysticism. We ascend to level 11 before we even start the mysticism grind because we leveled during the hike to Cloud Ruler Temple. We get 3 intelligence, 2 willpower, and 2 endurance. We ascend to level 12 shortly afterwards and get 4 intelligence and 2 willpower and endurance. This is the last level we started getting attribute increases for before we started grinding for mysticism. So it's the last level that'll have non-intelligence skill increases. We ascend to level 13 and get the expected 5 intelligence. We also get 2 speed because athletics increased while we ran around casting detect life spells and selling loot to a nearby trader, but we have no good third option. I considered raising luck, but decided even 1 point in endurance was better than no endurance. Thankfully, that's the last level during the mysticism grind, and we reach the skill level we need to dispel Jaskar's invisibility and complete the quest. With that nonsense out of the way, we start heading towards the Imperial City. After the combat really turns into a slog, I'm going to start leaning on fast travel more, but for now I want to show you guys what's happening to enemies in the overworld. Here's a random bandit who's much tougher than the bandits we ran into earlier, and has mithril armor and silver weapons for some reason. We also run into a Spriggan that can summon black bears and heal herself. After that, whatever mission Boris gives us will probably feel like a vacation. We find him in Luther Broad's boarding house, sitting at the bar. Someone follows Boris into the basement, and we follow both of them, and the owner at the bar has no objections. Once we're in the basement, a fight immediately breaks out, and to his credit, Boris ends the scuffle. On the assassin's body, we find a strange book.
The assassins who killed the Emperor were part of a Daedric cult known as the Mythic Dawn. Apparently worshipped the Daedra Lord Mehrunes Dagon. I've been tracking their agents in the Imperial City. I guess they noticed. There's a scholar at the Arcane University. Tarmina's her name. Supposed to be an expert on Daedric cults. Why don't you take that book to her? See what she makes of it. I'll keep running down leads on the Mythic Dawn network. If you learn
Who wants to bet that running down leads means drinking at the bar? Regardless, we head to the Arcane University. The scholar we're here to meet, Tarmina, is waiting in the lobby, the only room we can access without getting the remaining Mages Guild recommendations.
Those that I could find. It is clear from the text that Mankar Cameron's commentaries come in 4 volumes, but I've only ever seen the first 2 books. I believe that his writings contain hidden clues to the location of the Mythic Dawn's secret shrine to Mehrunes Dagon. If you want to find them, you'll need all 4 volumes of the commentaries. Here, you can have the library's copy of Volume 2. Treat it gently, if you please. As I've said, I've never even seen the 3rd and 4th volumes. You should try 1st edition over in the Market District.
We ascend to level 14 and get, say it with me, 3 intelligence, 2 willpower, and 2 endurance. Then we head to the 1st edition bookstore and speak with the owner, Fintius. We could persuade him to sell us the reserved copy of Volume 3, or we could steal it, or we can wait on the person who ordered the book to show up and simply talk him into giving it to us with no skill checks of any kind. Don't believe me? Watch.
I'm here for my book, Mankar Cameron's Commentaries, Volume 3.
Ah, of course. Here you go. Keep us in mind for any future needs.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't tell you how long I've been looking for this book. What can I do for you? Have you been following me? Leave me alone. That book is mine. The Mythic Dawn. Are you... I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything about any cult. I beg your pardon? You presume to tell me about Daedric cults? I'll have you know that I visited the shrine of Sheogorath during the Festival of the Mad. I've spoken with Hermaeus Mora beneath the full moons. What? The Mythic Dawn were the ones? You have to believe me. I truly had no idea. I knew they were a Daedric cult. Mankar Cameron's views on Mehrunes Dagon are fascinating, revolutionary even. But to murder the Emperor, Mara preserve us. Yes, of course. I don't want anyone to think I had anything to do with their insane plots. Here, Volume 3 is yours. What you do with it is your business. You can only get Volume 4 directly from a member of the Mythic Dawn. I had set up a meeting with the sponsor, as he called himself. Here, take this note they gave me. It tells you where to go. I don't want anything else to do with the Mythic Dawn.
We need to update Boris on our progress. We find him in the same bar we left him in. We tell him about the meeting we must attend to get the final volume of the book, and he claims he can help lead us to the meeting place. We follow Boris slowly through the sewers, and this is a rare place that still has mostly rats and mud crabs, so there are absolutely no threats.
All right, the room with the table is just through this door. I always wondered who put it there. I happen to know that if you go up the stairs there, you can get a vantage point on the meeting. I think I'd better be the one to handle the meeting. You'll be my backup. Keep watch from above in case of trouble. No, it should be me. I have a blood debt to repay these Mythic Dawn assassins. Besides, I've trained for this kind of thing my whole life.
I try to convince Boris that we should meet the sponsor, but he insists. Remember, he's trained for this his whole life. So we head up to a walkway above the meeting room to keep an eye on things. We see a torch approaching us from the far end of the walkway almost immediately, so we drink an invisibility potion, take off our steel boots, because Oblivion only checks your boots when determining if armor affects your stealth, and drop down into a shadowy part of the meeting room behind the sponsor. However, even though we successfully avoided blowing Boris's cover, his grand strategy of stare silently that he honed over a lifetime of training doesn't work, and he's recognized as a member of the Blades. The sponsor and his nearby lackeys attack us, and it's a hairy fight. I had to down a lot of potions and run laps around the area evading enemies to get through it. They hit hard, but the larger issue was their magic. Unfortunately, our armor and shield spells don't help against magic. For that, we'll need spell reflection, spell absorption, magic resistance, or the appropriate elemental resistance. To the surprise of no one, Boris died almost immediately.
For Lord Dagalor!
Die, unbelief!
Die, unbeliever! Die, unbeliever! Only the chosen will survive the cleansing. The time of cleansing is over.
After the fight, we find some loot that'll help against magic in the future. A grand amulet of spell reflection and a base ring of nihilism. These grant 17% spell reflection and 11% magic resistance, respectively. And of course, we take volume 4 of the book we need. We return to Tarmina with the books we found. After staring at her for 24 hours, she offers this.
But more to the point. It appears to me that the first words of each paragraph may be significant. A message may be hidden there. I'll continue to study the problem. Come by tomorrow if you like. I may think of something else.
We could figure out the message on our own from here, but it's faster if we just wait for her to spell it out for us, so we stare at her for another day.
I think I may have figured out the hidden message in Mankar Cameron's books. Do you have the third and fourth volumes with you? Excellent. Let's see. Yes, the first letter of each paragraph spells out a message. Write this down. Green Emperor Way, where tower touches midday sun.
When we talk to Tarmina again, she gives us fairly precise instructions, but just in case, a quest marker points us to the exact spot we need to go to. It isn't even a difficult thing to find. It's a glowing red map that appears on the side of a large tomb around noon each day. You can almost see it from the main path, and this is in the middle of the Imperial City. How has no one found this by sheer accident? The map points us to a cave near Lake Arius, just north of the city of Shadenhall, so that's our next destination. But first we have to level again. We ascend to level 15 and get 2 intelligence and willpower and 3 endurance. I also try updating the blades at Cloud Ruler Temple about our progress, and the fact that we've located the Mythic Dawn that likely still has the Amulet of Kings. And their only response is, "Great work, now go raid the shrine and reclaim the amulet with no backup of any kind." Why do we even bother working with them? For once, we can't fast travel directly where we need to go, so we're in for a bit of a hike through the wilderness. Approaching from Shadenhall didn't cross my mind because we haven't been to that city yet, and I forgot you can immediately fast travel to all the major cities right from the start of the game. Whoops. So we approach from near Bruma and go across the mountains. Mountains that are home to minotaurs and spriggans, and will-o'-the-wisps that are invisible and can absorb your health and damage your attributes. I resorted to climbing up on a rock where they couldn't get us, using our weak life detection spell to locate them, and spamming the weak fireball spell we got in Skingrad. But the grizzly bears are the worst. Their forward lunging attack is fast, covers ground, hits like a truck, and they often spam it. I'm showing you guys one grizzly bear fight, but there were multiple. If we hadn't been leveling endurance and heavy armor as much as possible, while leveling naturally at least, we wouldn't have stood a chance. I speak from experience. If you don't increase endurance or get enough armor and resistances, enemies will crush you at this point. As it is, we can survive with only the occasional potion panic, but our damage is falling off hard and combat takes forever. These nightmares probably would have been wolves if I'd shown up at an earlier level. We level up during the hike, so we detour to a monastery and take a nap to level up to level 16. We gain 3 willpower, 2 endurance, and 2 speed. We could have taken 2 intelligence, but we're at 97 intelligence, and I'm waiting for a +3 to get it all the way to 100. We arrive at the Mythic Dawn Shrine, and the doorman tries to take our equipment before we go inside. We refuse, and so a fight breaks out immediately. The mission goes the same way whether you try to go along with them here or not, but this way you have your gear and it's faster, so this is how we'll always be handling it. The Mythic Dawn guards and acolytes are actually far easier to deal with than the wildlife on the way here was, but their leader, Mankar Cameron, escapes with the Amulet of Kings through some kind of portal. We grab the book with weird Daedric writing he left behind and fight our way out of the shrine. We level up along the way and take a nap in one of the cultists' bedrolls to ascend to level 17. We get 3 endurance and 3 willpower and 2 speed. We ascend to level 18 shortly afterwards. Leveling doesn't really slow down until much later in the game, unless you pick major skills that increase slowly. We get 3 willpower and endurance and 1 luck. I don't know if anyone's been bothering to read the messages on the level up screens, but around this level, they start to imply that your character is dealing with reaching their peak and getting older, despite the fact that all of this has happened over the course of less than an in-game month. We stop by Shadenhall on the way back to Cloud Ruler Temple and do the Mages Guild quest there. We also buy Sea Stride, a spell that will allow us to walk on water, and the lava in Oblivion gates. It'll help us out later. We also buy some new armor. We're now wearing a mix of Dwarven and Orcish armor, which should help us survive the bears and Daedroths. After that, we take the book we found at the shrine back to Cloud Ruler Temple. While getting the amulet would have been better, the book gives us a path forward. I'll allow Martin to explain.
I don't know. Maybe. I suspect that the secret of how to open a portal to Cameron's paradise lies within these pages. But I will need time. Tampering with dark secrets, even just reading them, will be very dangerous. I'll have to proceed carefully. In the meantime, you should speak to Joffrey. I was concerned about reports of spies in Bruma.
This part of the main quest is just filler. I always forget it even exists. I'm going to summon up and move on. We find 2 spies after standing next to a runestone near Cloud Ruler Temple for a few hours. Then we find their plans to open a great gate at Bruma so they can level it with a siege engine like they did at Kvatch. There. Took about 20 minutes of running around and talking to people who kept explaining what we already knew to get to that. That was enough time for Martin to decipher the first part of the book we brought him, though. I'll allow him to explain.
Xerxes mentions 4 items needed for the ritual, but so far I've only deciphered one of them. The blood of a Daedric lord. In fact, Daedric artifacts are known to be formed from the essence of a Daedric lord, from whence they derive their great power. Not an easy thing to come by, obviously, but we will need a Daedric artifact. Bring it to me when you have acquired one.
To get a Daedric artifact, we need to complete one of the 15 Daedric quests in the game, many of which have high minimum level requirements. In future runs, we may stay at a lower level, so I'm going to pick one of the highest level ones we can do right now because I'd like to eventually show most of these Daedric quests off during different challenge runs. We're level 18, so 12 of the 15 quests are open to us. I decide to do Hircine's quest, which requires us to be level 17 or higher. We also need a bear or wolf pelt to present as an offering.
In Arcane Grove is a quarry worthy of the chase. First named, last tamed. The unicorn runs wild there. Bring me this creature's horn, mortal, if you dare.
Arcane Grove is actually very close to Hircine's shrine, but what Hircine doesn't mention is that the unicorn isn't the only thing there. There are also a couple of Minotaur lords we'll have to deal with. The unicorn also has weird AI. It doesn't usually attack us unless provoked, and we can even ride it if we want, but it will attack other NPCs seemingly at random. According to the wiki, it attacks anyone who has a weapon drawn, but I've seen it go after random non-hostile NPCs before, so I don't know if that's its only trigger. The fight wasn't difficult because the unicorn and even the minotaurs are pretty easy to dodge, but they are very tanky and our damage is pretty abysmal, so it took a long time. To be honest, the Drew that ran into the fight, how do you pronounce that? Drew? Drag? Dro? We're gonna go with Drew, and someone's going to yell at me about that, but moving on. That thing that ran into the fight at the end was a more difficult opponent. We return to the Shrine of Hircine with the unicorn's horn as proof of our victory. As much as I like Hircine, the Savior's Hide isn't that great. It's a light cuirass with a decent magic resistance enchantment. If you could get it at a lower level, it might be good for a bit, but by level 17, you probably already have something better. So it's a great artifact to give Martin to sacrifice for the ritual. We leveled again, so we went to the arena and took a nap to ascend to level 19. We get 3 willpower and 3 endurance and 2 speed. After another short nap, we ascend to level 20 and finally get 3 intelligence, bringing our intelligence to the cap of 100, along with 3 willpower and 2 endurance. Our magicka is as high as it can be without fortifying effects, but our health is only okay. We've increased endurance at almost every level so far, but we're usually only increasing it by 2 or 3 points per level. Endurance determines how much health we get every time we level up, and increasing it later isn't retroactive. So even with 90 endurance now, our mediocre endurance earlier has left us with only decent health at this point. For all that I've agonized over our health, though, this pre-made class, Sorcerer, seems to work. Increasing mostly major skills has resulted in increasing attributes we need. Maybe I'll do another version of this run where we have to pick one of the worst pre-made classes, like Healer or Pilgrim. Let me know if you guys want to see that. We return to Martin with the Savior's Hide.
You should talk to Joffrey. He needs your help. Trouble down in Bruma, I think.
I've just received word from the Countess of Bruma that an Oblivion gate has opened outside the city. Since you've dealt with these gates before, I'd like you to help the Countess's guard close this gate.
We meet up with Bird and some guards. They actually do well when a bunch of them can just pile onto the Daedra, but once they lose the advantage of sheer numbers, things fall apart fast. We just don't have the damage output to kill things fast enough to save them. Thankfully, we don't have to protect them. Bird is essential, so he only gets knocked unconscious. Repeatedly. The other guards didn't even make it through the first fight. If we had to keep Bird alive, we'd be in real trouble, but as it is, we just drag him through the plane of Oblivion while he sustains massive head trauma. He even fell into lava. The bank is too steep to pull him out before he wakes up and falls down further into the lava. So we have no choice but to go on and hope he somehow gets out when we reach the Sigil Tower. I don't know if he somehow got out of the lava or if he teleported, but either way we can continue on. We fight our way through the tower, where this sword shows we're apparently in a dream. I love crazy game physics. We make it to the top of the tower and take the sigil stone with little difficulty. We report back to Joffrey.
Good work. Captain Bird and his guardsmen should be able to handle any additional gates, at least for now. Bruma cannot hold off the hordes of Oblivion alone. You should ask the rulers of the other cities of Cyrodiil to send help.
Getting allies for Bruma takes a lot of extra time for little reward, but we will be doing this extra quest just this once to show how worthless it is. We'll start by going to the Imperial City to talk to Chancellor Okado, so he can say no and we can move on.
I've been pleading for troops for Cyrodiil for weeks, but the generals assure me that the entire Imperial army is already fully committed. Besides, I'd have a full-scale political crisis on my hands if I tried to pull any troops out of the provinces. I'm sorry, but the cities of Cyrodiil will have to fend for themselves for the time being.
Why did Bethesda bother putting this in when there's no way to convince him? Afterwards, we take another nap at the arena to ascend to level 21. We get 3 willpower, 2 endurance, and 1 luck.
I cannot spare any soldiers as long
We
as
start working on getting aid from the other cities. For Kvatch, we're already done. You have to help them retake the castle to get their aid, and we did that earlier. For all of the other cities, we go through this song and dance. We ask the Count or Countess for aid. They say they can't send anyone until an Oblivion gate outside their city is closed. We close the gate and talk to them again, and they send aid. These Oblivion gates take longer than any of the mandatory ones, at least for me. I'm sure it's partially because I haven't closed them as many times, but some of them force you to go through a lot of tunnels and side towers to reach the Sigil Stone. I have over 8 hours of footage from this, which is more than the rest of the main quest combined. The combat isn't difficult because we have enough health, armor, and potions to survive pretty well at this point, but our damage is abysmal because we haven't unlocked spellcrafting, so it's a slog. While that's partially my fault for not unlocking spellcrafting yet, I also blame Bethesda because I almost always have to mod their games to be less, for lack of a better term, bullet spongy. The player character and enemies in their games tend to have high health and relatively low damage, making combat slow. The difficulty settings they put in don't help. On easier settings, they give us higher damage while decreasing the enemy's damage, which makes combat fast but way too easy. On harder settings, they increase the enemy's damage while decreasing ours, making the combat harder but even slower. I usually put in mods to increase the damage for both the player and enemies when I play normally, so combat feels difficult, fast, and lethal instead of feeling like we're all using wiffle bats. Be glad you're getting the Sigil Stone and level up montage. Our level ups aren't giving us much because we've maxed out the attributes that matter to us: intelligence, willpower, and endurance. I probably should have spread out those increases and gotten a bit more luck. From this point on, our level ups are only going to get us a bit more luck and speed, plus some extra health from our high endurance. Notice that we're only getting tankier. We're not gaining any ability to do more damage, no more magicka or anything that would improve our spells. Again, wiffle bat combat. You only have to close one specific gate, even though some cities have multiple gates within sight of the city walls. Leyawiin has at least 3 gates nearby. When we visit Breville and Leyawiin, we also do the Mages Guild quest there, finally unlocking spellcrafting at the Arcane University. This will allow me to make custom spells to improve our damage and speed up combat a little bit.
With an open Oblivion gate just outside our walls.
It's a good thing we got custom spells before the Shadenhall gate, because we needed them. The Shadenhall gate is the only one that has an extra quest attached to it, and it makes it worse because we have to escort 2 NPCs that aren't essential. This charming brat of the Count's is who we have to keep alive, when his AI does stuff like this. Getting them across the bridge and into the Sigil Tower was the most difficult part of this whole fiasco because they kept chasing ranged enemies off of the bridge and into lava. Even on the successful attempt, they refused to follow me into the tower because an archer was under the bridge, so I had to make my way down to take it out. Then they followed me off the bridge, but by some miracle they stayed on the solid ground underneath the bridge instead of leaping into the lava on either side, and they followed me into the tower once I made it back up to the door. Every battle was a frantic mess of trying to put the enemies down as fast as possible, followed by sitting around healing them afterwards. I have never been so happy to see a sigil stone in my life. With about 8 hours of my life gone, we finally return to Martin to continue the parts of the main quest that are actually important. We'll see the results of getting the extra allies later. Trust me, I'll point it out.
Another item needed for the ritual, to open the portal to Cameron's paradise. The second item is the counterpart to the first, the blood of a divine. This was a terrible puzzle to me. How then to obtain the blood of a god? But Joffrey solved it. The blood of Tiber Septim himself, who became one of the divines.
The armor is in the shrine of Tiber Septim, in the catacombs beneath the ruins of Sankator, a holy place once. But Sankator became evil long ago. No one has returned from the shrine of Tiber Septim for many lifetimes.
Despite Joffrey's warnings, the ruins of Sankator aren't that bad. We're mostly fighting wraiths, which are pretty vulnerable to our new fire spells. We have to find and take out the skeletons of 4 blades that were sent here centuries ago to cleanse the ruins of evil, which they failed to do, so their freed spirits can cleanse the place and we can get to the armor of Tiber Septim that we're here for. Even the ancient blades couldn't do anything without our help. I apologize that I've been skipping over most of the combat, but over the past few levels we have gotten so much health that even though combat is still slower than I'd like, we aren't ever in danger. Apparently, if you pick a class that gets decent endurance increases and manage to push through the difficult levels where the game is constantly rolling out new enemies, you can out-level everything and the game gets easy again. I did not know that prior to doing this run. I assumed the enemies would keep scaling and it would just get worse. I do think picking a class with an endurance raising skill really helped us though. I honestly picked this class because it's what I played when I made my first character and I remembered things going really badly. But I guess young me just leveled completely wrong. Anyway, the blade spirits dispel the barrier in front of the armor, leaving us free to take it to Martin.
While you were gone, I've made some progress in deciphering the Mysterium Xarxes ritual. The third item we need is a great Welkin stone. There is only one place that is rumoured to still contain one. The ruins of the Ayleid city of Miskarkand.
The things that set Miskarkand apart from other Ayleid ruins are the boss and goblins warring with the undead there. There's a lot of enemy infighting, which is fun to watch, but neither the goblins nor the undead are much of a threat to us. The boss appears after we pick up the Great Welkin Stone we're here for, a powerful lich with a horde of zombies. At lower levels, and high levels too if you've leveled poorly, this boss can be a nightmare because he has powerful magic and he can reflect and absorb spells, making using magic against him difficult. The zombies can also make getting into melee a problem unless you deal with them first, while their master slings spells at you. In fact, he can be so challenging that Bethesda didn't make taking him out mandatory. If you can pick the locked doors blocking the way out, you can just take the Great Welkin Stone and run. We fight the Lich anyway though, just to see how it goes. We had to use some potions to get through a dicey moment where the Lich drained our strength, leaving us over encumbered and unable to move. But other than that, it went pretty smoothly.
Welkin stones contain the concentrated power of Mundus.
We returned to Cloud Ruler Temple to find Martin wearing a full suit of plate armor. For some reason, he's gotten it into his head that he needs to lead the charge in the upcoming battle for Bruma. And during the battle, he will not be marked as essential, meaning he can die. And if he does, it's a game over. Martin is pretty powerful, but with so many high-level Daedra on the field, I'm anticipating problems. First, we have to go tell the Countess of Bruma that her city is being offered up as bait so we can get a great sigil stone.
If I am to be emperor, it's time I started acting like one.
I will meet Martin at the chapel. When all is ready, I will order my men to stop closing the gates and prepare for battle. I'm ready for battle.
For some reason, Martin did not show up for the cutscene here, so we talked to the Countess and started walking out to the battle without him. After waiting with the soldiers outside for a bit, Martin suddenly appeared at the city gate behind us with Bird and Joffrey. As you can see by his conversation icon changing, Martin's essential status is removed at the start of his speech in front of the gates, so we need to protect him until the Great Gate opens. The extra soldiers we spent so much time getting did help when they bothered to get into the battle, but half of them were just standing around while Martin dove right into the melee. We spent most of the fight healing Martin. He's pretty tanky, so with our heals topping off his health, when he doesn't reflect the spell back at us at least, he stays pretty safe. As soon as the Great Gate opens, we sprint for it. Once we're inside, Martin goes back to being essential, so we don't have to worry about him dying. However, we only have 15 minutes to close the Great Gate before the siege engine gets out and levels Broom up. We have water walking, so we're going to sprint over the lava to the tower and hope it works out. A Fortify Acrobatics spell would have been helpful for jumping over some barriers, but we still skipped most of the small towers on the way to the Sigil Tower by sprinting over the lava. We run up the tower, grab the Great Sigil Stone with 10 minutes to spare, and appear back in Tamriel with the siege engine collapsing on our heads. After getting out of the way of that, we follow Martin back to Cloud Ruler Temple to carry out the ritual to send us to Mankar Cameron's Paradise. Before we go, though, let's take a look at our level to prove it's above level 20, the threshold for entering Paradise in this challenge. We're at level 34, so we're good. We enter the portal and appear at the start of a path. We follow it while Mankar Cameron monologues telepathically until we come across a Dremora. We need to get into the cavern he's guarding, and taking him out is the fastest way. He always carries a sword enchanted with fire damage, meaning we're constantly on fire and can't really see because of the flames, but he isn't that dangerous to us. We take the Bands of the Chosen off of him, which we have to wear to enter the cavern. Inside the cavern, we come across Eldemil, a Mythic Dawn cultist who regrets what he's done and offers to help us.
No one wearing the Bands of the Chosen can leave this grotto. The doors will not open, and there is no other way out. I can remove them, but I will need time. The Dremora Overseer will be here any minute to check up on me. You need to play along until he leaves. Prisoner!
First, we have to get in a cage suspended over lava. I'll admit, if I didn't already know that this isn't a trap, that Eldemil actually wants to help us, I absolutely would not do this. Seriously, this should have been a game over for being stupid enough to trust a former cultist and get in a cage suspended over lava. But it works. After leaving the cave, we make it to Mankar Cameron's throne room, where he's been waiting along with his two children we fought earlier. One was the sponsor in the sewers, and one was at the Mythic Dawn shrine we raided. We have to fight all three, and his children will revive after a short time, so we have to focus on Mankar. His monologuing is never ending, so I just hit him with a spell and start the fight. It's actually tricky. Mankar can reflect and absorb magic and reflects several of our spells back at us, which causes a lot of damage that would have been fatal if not for the pile of potions we're carrying. He also has a healing spell, so we have to do a lot of damage quickly. That isn't our strong suit to begin with, and with him reflecting so many of our spells, it's even more difficult. I tried to use the dagger we've been carrying around to poison him, but he must have used a disintegrate weapon spell at some point because it broke instantly, and we aren't carrying backup weapons because we almost never use them. We use the mundane rings Mankar's sun keeps dropping to increase our magic resistance so we can keep fighting. But we seem to be at an impasse where neither of us can do damage to the other fast enough. We finally get a couple of our spells through his spell reflection and absorption fast enough to take him out. But I admit I was wishing I could conjure a weapon or something towards the end because I was genuinely worried we were going to be in a stalemate forever. We grab the Amulet of Kings and warp back to Cloud Ruler Temple as Cameron's paradise crumbles. Is the invasion over?
Not yet. Until we light the dragonfires, the gates are open and Mehrunes Dagon's invasion continues. While you were gone, I sent a messenger to Chancellor Akata. He waits for us in the Imperial City.
So we have to get Martin to the Imperial City to meet Akato, and then light the dragonfires to stop the invasion. Not sure why we can't stop at the Temple of the One to light the dragonfires first. We could even hold the meeting with Akato there, surely.
I was told that he had arrived in the capital.
Fine, to the Imperial Palace. Getting Martin to the Imperial City is not an issue. He's essential again, so we don't have to worry about him dying along the way. And we can fast travel to skip the trip entirely. Which we do, because I don't want him to pull a Joffrey and get lost. Even so, he takes an extra minute to get into the council chamber just to make me worry.
I've been expecting you. The full council has already considered the matter of Martin's claim to the Imperial throne in detail. Martin Septim, on behalf of the Elder Council, I accept your claim to the Imperial throne.
Chancellor Okado!
We should...
Chancellor Okado, the city is under attack. Oblivion gates have opened and Daedra are inside the walls. The guard is overwhelmed.
Courage, soldier. We have an emperor again. Your Highness, what are your orders? Shall the guard fall back to the palace?
No. If we let ourselves get besieged in the palace, we're doomed. We must get to the Temple of the One immediately.
As you command, sire. Guards, form up and protect the Emperor. To the Temple of the One.
Of course, the Daedra invade while we're making nice with Chancellor Akado, so now we have to fight our way to the Temple of the One to light the dragonfires, and Martin is no longer essential. There are a ton of Daedra outside the palace. We try to be aggressive, hitting as many Daedra as we can with our various damage over time spells. The goal is to keep Martin and as many of the guards as possible alive, so we'll have their help in the Temple District. Once the Daedra around the palace are gone, we chug a few more magicka potions so we can heal Martin and the guards while they discuss how to get to the temple. They start to run off before we can heal most of them, but Martin stops about halfway to the temple district doors, and because the guards are all following him, they stop too. It turns out that Martin is waiting on us. Once we get close to him, he starts to run forward, but he stops when we don't follow. So we can't heal him here because he'll move, but we can at least heal all the surviving guards. Once they're healed, we follow Martin until he runs through the doors. Counterintuitively, we shouldn't follow him right away. The guards are more likely to follow properly if we wait until they also go through the doors. A couple of them still stall out and refuse to go through even after we push them to the doors, but we got most of them. Mehrunes Dagon, the Daedric prince behind the invasion, appears in the temple district before we can get to the Temple of the One, but Martin has a plan, which he tells us through a storm atronach. I love the conversation camera in this game.
I have an idea, one last hope. I must reach the dragonfires in the Temple of the One. I do what I must do. I cannot stay to rebuild Tamriel. That task falls to others. Farewell. You've been a good friend in the short time that I've known you. But now I must go. The dragon waits.
Was anyone expecting a kaiju battle at the end of this game? Cutscenes aren't really Bethesda's strong suit, as evidenced at many other points in this game, but I think they did a pretty good job here. With that, Martin casts Dagon back into Oblivion and ends the invasion, beating the main quest of the game and leaving us to explain all of this to Chancellor Okado. This turned out to be easier than I thought it would be. When I played this as a kid, everything fell apart by level 12 and the character never really recovered, even by the mid-level 20s. But I guess if you play a class that gets the attributes you need, like endurance, the system works better than you might expect. Certainly better than I expected. It might be worth trying this as a different class that doesn't get good attributes, but I have some other runs I want to try first. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. I hate to ask, but it really does help. If you have ideas for future challenges, let me know in the comments. I have another Oblivion challenge run already recorded, actually, but at the time of writing this, I still need to write the script and do the voiceover and edit all of that together. I'm still getting used to the workflow these videos require. It's very different from doing Let's Plays. I don't know when exactly the next one will be out, but I'll try to get it done soon. See you guys next time.